There comes a moment in every empath's life when the constant noise of the world becomes too heavy to carry. For years, you listened to everyone else's pain, everyone else's opinions, everyone else's expectations. You answered every call, explained yourself over and over, tried to keep the peace, tried to make everyone comfortable, and somewhere in the process, you forgot what your own soul sounded like. Then one day, something changes. You stop chasing noise. You stop begging to be understood. You stop fighting every battle that finds you. And people think you are withdrawing, but they do not realize that what looks like silence is actually transformation. Silence is not your defeat. It is your recovery. It is the place where an exhausted heart finally gets to breathe. It is the place where you begin hearing your own thoughts again, instead of carrying the weight of everyone else's emotions. An empath in the silent season is not becoming cold. They are becoming clear. They are learning that peace is more valuable than proving a point. They are learning that not every misunderstanding needs an explanation. They are learning that protecting their energy is not selfish. It is necessary. And here is what makes this season so powerful. The moment you stop reacting to every demand, every criticism, every emotional storm, you begin rebuilding yourself from the inside out. The wounds that never had time to heal finally receive attention. The dreams you buried beneath responsibility begin speaking again. The strength that was hidden under exhaustion starts returning. Silence becomes a workshop where a new version of you is being created. Some people will not understand this change. They were comfortable with the old version of you, the version that always said yes, always explained, always absorbed the pain in the room. Your quiet will make them uncomfortable because it removes their access to your energy. But that discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that your boundaries are finally becoming visible. The truth is, the strongest transformation often happens in private. A tree grows roots before it grows branches. An empath grows inner strength before the world can see it. In this season, you are not disappearing. You are becoming harder to wound, harder to manipulate, and impossible to define by other people's opinions. And that is the beginning of real freedom. When your silence no longer feels empty, it feels powerful. One of the greatest burdens an empath carries is not always their own pain. It is the invisible weight of everyone else's emotions. You walk into a room, and somehow you can feel the tension before anyone says a word. You notice the sadness hidden behind someone's smile, the frustration buried beneath polite conversation, and the fear that people desperately try to disguise. Your heart naturally reaches out because helping others feels as natural as breathing. But somewhere along the journey, compassion quietly becomes captivity. You begin believing that it is your responsibility to fix every broken person, calm every argument, and carry every emotional storm. You convince yourself that if someone around you is hurting, then you should hurt with them. If they are overwhelmed, you should become overwhelmed too. If they are drowning, you should jump into the water without asking whether they are willing to swim. That may sound noble, but over time it slowly drains the life out of you. The truth is, there is a difference between caring for people and carrying people. One comes from love, the other often comes from guilt. Many empaths have spent years confusing these two. You answer every late-night call, solve problems that are not yours, forgive people who never change, and sacrifice your own peace, because you believe that saying no somehow makes you a bad person. But every time you ignore your own needs to rescue someone else, you silently tell yourself that your well-being matters less than everyone else's. That belief is not compassion. It is emotional exhaustion wearing the mask of kindness. Your silent season begins to reveal something that may feel uncomfortable at first. You realize that some people never wanted healing. They only wanted access to your energy. They became dependent on your listening ear, your endless patience, your willingness to absorb their negativity, while they remained exactly the same. They confused your empathy with unlimited availability. This is where your healing takes a powerful turn. You begin releasing burdens that never belonged on your shoulders. You stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You understand that another person's anger is not automatically your responsibility. Their disappointment is not your failure. Their emotional wounds are not yours to carry forever. You can love people deeply without allowing their pain to become your identity. The beautiful thing about this realization is that it does not make your heart smaller. It makes it healthier. You still care. You still love. You still show compassion. But now your kindness comes from strength instead of depletion. You give because you choose to, not because guilt forces you to. The moment you stop carrying pain that was never yours is the moment your own heart finally begins to heal. One of the quietest but most powerful changes that happens during the silent season is that your boundaries begin speaking louder than your words ever could. There was a time when you believed every relationship could be saved if you explained yourself clearly enough. You spent hours replaying conversations in your mind, searching for better words, kinder responses, and softer ways to keep everyone happy. You thought that if people truly understood your heart, they would finally appreciate your intentions. But experience taught you something that no amount of explaining ever could. Some people do not misunderstand you because your words are unclear. They misunderstand you because respecting your boundaries would require them to change. As an empath, saying no may have once felt like betrayal. You worried about disappointing people. You feared being called selfish, distant, or cold. So you continued saying yes, even when your spirit was exhausted. You gave your time when you needed rest. You gave your attention when your own mind was overwhelmed. You gave your energy until there was almost nothing left for yourself. And each time you ignored your own limits, you slowly taught others that your needs could always come last. But the silent season changes that pattern. Instead of explaining why you cannot help this time, you simply protect your peace. Instead of arguing with people who refuse to understand, you allow your silence to become your answer. Instead of chasing acceptance, you become comfortable with being misunderstood. That is not because you no longer care. It is because you have finally realized that your value does not depend on everyone's approval. Something remarkable happens when your boundaries become clear. The people who genuinely love and respect you will adjust without making you feel guilty. They may ask questions, but they will honor your peace because they value you more than their convenience. Others, however, may become frustrated. They may accuse you of changing. They may say you are different, distant, or no longer the person they once knew. And they are right. You are different. You no longer confuse unlimited access with genuine love. You no longer believe that being available every second proves your kindness. You understand that healthy relationships can survive healthy boundaries. In fact, the strongest relationships become even stronger because they are built on mutual respect instead of emotional dependence. Remember, every boundary you create is not a wall built to keep love out. It is a gate that allows only what nourishes your spirit to enter. It protects your compassion from becoming exploitation. It protects your kindness from becoming obligation. Most importantly, it protects the peaceful life you have worked so hard to rebuild. The day your boundaries become stronger than your need to be understood is the day your silence becomes your greatest source of strength. There is a level of peace that most people never discover because they spend their entire lives reacting. Every harsh word demands a response. Every criticism feels like a personal attack. Every act of disrespect becomes a battle to win. For an empath, this pattern can become even more exhausting because your heart naturally feels everything so deeply. You replay conversations in your mind. You question your intentions. You wonder if you could have said something differently. You carry emotional moments long after everyone else has forgotten them. But your silence season introduces you to a different kind of strength. It teaches you that emotional maturity is not about never feeling pain. It is about refusing to let pain control your next decision. There was a time when someone else's mood could determine the direction of your entire day. If they were angry, you became anxious. If they withdrew, you blamed yourself. If they criticized you, you searched desperately for ways to earn back their approval. You handed people the keys to your emotional world without realizing it. Every reaction gave them more influence over your peace than they ever deserved. Now something begins to change. You notice that not every invitation deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your participation. Not every insult deserves your defense. Some people thrive on emotional reactions because your frustration, your tears, or your anger become proof that they still have power over you. The moment you stop feeding that cycle, the entire dynamic begins to shift. Silence is not weakness. Calm is not surrender. Sometimes the strongest response is the one you never give. When you no longer rush to defend yourself against every false accusation, you protect your peace. When you stop explaining your worth to people determined to misunderstand you, you protect your dignity. When you refuse to answer manipulation with more emotion, you remove the fuel that keeps unhealthy relationships alive. This does not mean you become emotionless. Quite the opposite. You become emotionally grounded. You still feel disappointment, sadness, and hurt because those emotions are part of being human. The difference is that those feelings no longer control your actions. They visit your heart, but they no longer build a permanent home there. People may become confused by your calmness. They may push harder because the old methods no longer work. They may expect the version of you that argued, pleaded, or chased after their approval. But they will discover someone entirely different. They will meet a person whose peace is no longer available for negotiation. That is what makes you untouchable. Not because life stops bringing challenges, but because challenges no longer have permission to steal your identity. Your value remains steady whether others applaud you or criticize you, accept you or reject you. The greatest victory is not winning every battle. It is becoming so peaceful that many battles no longer deserve your attention. As the silence season continues, something extraordinary begins to happen. The world around you becomes quieter, but for the first time in a long time, your inner voice becomes louder. Before this season, your identity may have been shaped by how much you could do for others. You became known as the dependable one, the listener, the peacemaker, the person who always understood everyone else's feelings. You wore those roles with pride, believing they defined who you were. But when the noise fades and the expectations fall away, a simple question begins to echo through your heart. Who are you when you are no longer trying to be everything for everyone else? That question can feel uncomfortable because it asks you to meet the version of yourself that has been waiting patiently beneath years of people-pleasing and emotional sacrifice. It asks you to remember the dreams you postponed, the passions you ignored, and the peace you traded for approval. At first, the silence may seem unfamiliar because you are no longer distracted by constantly solving someone else's problems. But that empty space is not a loss. It is an invitation. You begin noticing things you once overlooked. You realize that your worth was never meant to be measured by how useful you were to other people. Your value was never dependent on how many burdens you could carry or how many broken hearts you could comfort. Those were beautiful expressions of your character, but they were never your identity. Healing is not about becoming someone completely different. It is about uncovering the person you were before fear convinced you that love had to be earned. It is remembering the confidence you had before rejection made you doubt yourself. It is reconnecting with the dreams that still quietly live inside you, waiting for permission to grow. As your confidence begins to return, something changes in the way you move through life. You stop seeking constant validation because you finally recognize that no amount of outside approval can replace inner peace. Compliments become appreciated instead of required. Acceptance becomes welcomed instead of desperately chased. You no longer need everyone to agree with your path because you trust the direction of your own heart. The beautiful part is that your empathy does not disappear. It becomes healthier, wiser, and more balanced. You can still love deeply without losing yourself. You can still care without abandoning your own needs. Your heart remains open, but your identity is no longer built on the opinions of those around you. The silence has not taken anything valuable away from you. Instead, it has removed everything that prevented you from seeing your true self. Behind the expectations, behind the guilt, behind the constant need to please, there has always been a person worthy of love exactly as they are. The greatest discovery of your silent season is realizing that the person you were searching for has been within you all along. If you have made it through this silent season, then you are no longer the same person who entered it. The journey has changed you in ways that cannot always be seen from the outside, but you feel them every single day. You no longer wake up wondering how to keep everyone else happy before asking yourself what your own heart needs. You no longer measure your worth by how much you sacrifice or how many people depend on you. You have discovered something far more valuable than approval. You have discovered peace. That mean life will never hurt you again? No, pain is still part of being human. Disappointment will still visit. Loss will still come. Some people will still misunderstand your intentions. Challenges will still appear when you least expect them. But there is one thing that has changed forever. Pain no longer has the power to define who you are. There was a time when one betrayal could make you question your value. One rejection could make you doubt your future. One harsh opinion could steal your confidence for weeks. But through every lesson, every boundary, every quiet moment of reflection, you have built something stronger than temporary emotions. You have built resilience. Resilience is not pretending that nothing affects you. It is knowing that whatever affects you will not destroy you. It is trusting that every storm eventually passes and that your identity is rooted in something deeper than circumstances. You have learned that your peace is not created by perfect people or perfect situations. It is created by the choices you make every day to protect your heart, honor your boundaries, and remain true to yourself. Perhaps the greatest gift of this journey is that you no longer fear being alone with your own thoughts. Silence has become your companion instead of your enemy. It reminds you of everything you have overcome. It reminds you that healing is not a destination, but a lifelong commitment to choosing yourself without guilt and loving others without losing yourself. As you move forward, there will always be voices trying to pull you back into old patterns. Some will expect unlimited access to your energy. Others will tempt you to abandon your boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace. But now you know better. Real peace is not found in pleasing everyone around you. It is found in remaining faithful to the person you worked so hard to become. So walk confidently into this new chapter. Let your kindness remain genuine, your heart remain open, and your wisdom guide every decision. Continue choosing calm over chaos, purpose over pressure, and peace over unnecessary conflict. Because the strongest empath is not the one who feels the deepest pain. The strongest empath is the one who has learned exactly where to place their heart, their energy, and their silence. And once you protect that peace, pain may knock at your door, but it will never again have the power to live within you.